Yeah. Okay, we are live. The last session before the new year.
2026
This
is
is
here,
it.
man. Unbelievable. Like it's been a tough year. Very tough year, man. Like reflecting back, I think is it's been an very interesting year. So I don't know how to you. By the way, how you guys doing? Merry Christmas. I hope you had a great Christmas. Uh so
So
yeah,
that
Marlon, I'm with you, mate. Marlon, 20 fucking 25, man. Yeah, it's been interesting, man. It's been a lot of learning, a lot
there
of
is a lot
learning.
there.
That's the only thing that I can put it like, so that we can talk about that today. Things that I've
Hmm.
learned, things that are that could make things easier next year, and that's the only thing that you can do, right? Journal your I'm gonna have to go through my journals, to my stuff to see
Hmm.
what can we definitely improve for next year. But yeah, 2025 has been an interesting year.
Hmm.
Interesting
Hmm.
year.
Yeah, it really has. It's like, and I'm stealing this, by the way. I heard this the other day. I think it was, oh fuck, I can't remember which artist it was. Maybe it was Picasso. I can't actually remember, right? But they used to do these like photorealistic paintings. That was their thing. And they
Mm-hmm.
were the best in the world at these photorealistic paintings.
Mm,
Then cameras came along,
mm,
and technology meant that a photograph was more photorealistic than a painting that's photorealistic. So the person that painted these photorealistic paintings, he fucked them off. He stopped painting them and he painted something else. Now, can you see that my point is that technology came along
mm,
and ended what he was doing, and then he had
mm,
to shift and do something else. And that's just the same as finding edges in what we do. And we talked a lot about the 4 year cycle and everything like that. And it's like, well, trading is just this continual set of puzzles and problems that are put in front of you. And to be a good trader, you've got to be willing to think through all of these problems that are put in front of you, maybe not even call them problems, if you know what I mean.
mm.
And I think part of the way, or part of the confusion that I've had in the past, is looking at one type of trading system and not
Yeah.
being able to understand that there are different methodologies and there's different things we're going after. So, like, as you've explained quantitative analysis to me, if you know what I mean, they can't do discretionary trading and they kind of laugh at it because they can't do it because they find mathematical edges like
Mm,
YF10K. This is
mm-hmm,
mathematically proven edge. All you need to do is turn up and do this every day, and then, it will work for however long it works. At some point, all edges completely crumble. So in this particular,
and that's important distinction to make, Ian, because obviously when you mention at some point edges crumble, why do you think is that?
because more people trade them, and then it stops being that
That's
edge.
one. Yep.
Yeah.
That's definitely one. I will say another one, and this is something to be mindful as well, guys. Is like, and this is on every trading. I'm talking about stocks. I'm talking about fucking crypto, commodities, whatever. Right? It's because psychology changes, prices changes, appreciation changes, even in house market. Right?
Hmm.
Like if you are a real estate investor and your edge is finding, I don't know, things to renovate and shit like that, the more people do it, the more demand and that's the same psychology, man. That's why I always try to find the best analogy that I can think of,
Hmm.
and you see a lot of the real estate, with a lot of renovation shows and shit like that, right? Everybody's fucking doing the same thing. The gap of making profit is less. You
Hmm.
know what I mean? Same thing with
Hmm.
markets. Same thing with anything, right? So, and things change, but that doesn't mean that things that work in the past will not work in the future. and vice,
Hmm.
you know what I mean? We can so understanding different types of training, I think is really, really important.
Yeah. Marlon put a comment about AI in the chat, right? So
Yep.
I've just got a wild theory here, Maurizio. I've just invented this one.
Give it to me. Yeah,
Okay.
throw it. Yeah.
So the crypto universe keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's going to get even more bigger, more and more coins, right?
Yep.
So liquidity is going to be we want liquidity everywhere. So what I think
Hmm.
is going to happen in the future is there's just going to be an AI program that you log on to and you say, I've got $1 million. I want airdrops. I want this return. I want that return. And then the AI just and does it for you. And like that will be the future of trading.
It's already happening. That's it. It's already happening. So obviously, uh, you know, it's already happening, and part of the new FinRep, when it transfer, it's going to be that in a way, right?
Mhm.
Because there, there there is a lot of differences between something that is called algo trading,
Hmm.
which is quantitative based, and AI trading. And every time that you see somebody talking about AI in trading, uh, you just have to ask yourself, is this an algo or is this a real AI? So this is in my view, right? Real AI is an AI, some is like is it's not an algo, because an algo is just something that you programmatically do. You know what I mean? Like it's a piece of code that you run over and over again. That's an algo. That's not AI. AI is like some like that piece of brain that it could say, okay, let's choose this algo now because the market conditions like this and this and this and this. That's real AI.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? And that's I've seen some people developing some kind of really
Hmm.
interesting stuff. You know what I mean? So obviously that's I think that's you're right. You can see a lot of algos right now choosing, liquidity gaps, all that sort of stuff, scalp back and forward. You know what I mean? And it's tough to
Hmm.
compete. So it's going to get a lot of difficulty trading alts, especially Bitcoin, Ethereum, all the majors. I think it will be much easier in a way for discretionary traders, because obviously
Hmm.
volume is there. It's difficult to actually move the markets with a lot of volume. But if you put an AI or an algo on a very small cap, and they can analyze all the thing about this, like it's not difficult to do. Get a feed on the exchanges, tell me how many traders are, how many shorts, how many longs, how many, and then execute you do have capital, just blast that orders, and then you know stop losses to the long, stop losses to the short. That's what's happening right now, by the way. And I'll show you
Hmm.
some cool stuff as well. And very difficult to trade against that. So crypto is that. Crypto is very low cap, a lot of low cap market stuff. What I mean? It will be very simple for a market maker to move the market. Very simple, man. With $5 million, you can actually move the market on any coin dramatically. And $5 million is not a lot, man. And not a
It's
lot
not.
for a market maker. It's like pennies for a market maker, man. So yeah.
So it's like,
Marlon, yes.
Mhm.
Sniper bots are just fucking algos. It's not AIs. You know what I mean? Like, because it's snipers, it's just think about it, what they do. You just program an algo that actually tracks every single new token being listed, and
Hmm.
then just snipe if they find volume. That's not AI. It's just an algo. So it's always, having the differentiation of that.
Yeah, that's interesting. So for so it's kind of like it's finding a system that you can trade
Yeah.
within the market conditions that are available. Or you have
Mm-hmm.
something like YF10 that's a market neutral strategy in your,
Mm-hmm.
in your sort of toolbox. You've got, say, FinRev that's a trend following system. There's
Mhm.
the Hypertrend Vault that's coming out that's going to be built on a pyramid of systems as James went through. So the Hypertrend Vault can change depending on what market conditions we're in. And as
Correct.
we've got Goblin doing the market making in milliseconds, then we can move with the market. Something that as a human being, it becomes more and more difficult to do, or you can get overwhelmed with having too many systems, because it does take a little bit of time to because like this discretionary that we do in 100x, like this is the fucking hardest thing I've ever done. Like I take my hat off to you. I remember a few years back,
Oh
I used to
man.
laugh at discretionary trading's a piece of piss, mate. And now I
No,
just
no,
regret everything I ever said.
it's tough. It does my head in. And obviously, you know, especially, when it hits your emotions in especially what happens. Like I keep going back to October 10 because that was the biggest drawdown ever we had.
Mm.
And we saw that far around, man. So an algo would have definitely picked that up. Definitely would have gauged you out. No emotions, no anything, no nothing, right? So yeah, it's one of those things. Todd mentioned something. Overall, the trade in crypto, you get the 60 to 75%. What do you mean is like AI or algo driven, Todd?
I think there's an earlier comment where he says the percentage in
Yes.
crypto, yeah.
You know what, Todd? I know by a fact. I'm good friends with someone like a big market maker, and I he mentioned is more than 90%.
Mm.
That's what the game is at the moment. Like 90%, 90% of all the market trade that you see fucking on your screen is by algos. Call it AI, call it algos, call it whatever, but it's an automated system. Period. You know what I mean? Like the 90%, that's the game that we're playing now. That's why it's getting difficult. That's why it's getting it's getting really
My
difficult.
back's cracked.
So yeah. So
All right, okay. So just really randomly changing things then. So silver
yep,
has gone batshit crazy. I don't
yep,
know the fundamental reasons that are driving that. I think Marlon just mentioned about uh, kind of precious metals. So
yep.
we're seeing these asset classes like doing things, like gold won't stop going up, silver won't stop going up, and I don't know how their relationship affects, drives, goes with the crypto market, but there's a whole bunch of those other stats as the strength of the dollar, gold, silver, the SPX,
The thing,
like
the thing, the thing of commodities is still commodities is always a market that you can actually trade instead of crypto. The main thing that why it's tracked right now is because it's the best performing asset and crypto is not fucking doing anything. If crypto was doing something, do you think you turn your eye even we can look at the charts of
mm,
and it went like 50%. But if you think crypto was actually active, do you think people will turn attention into silver or commodities? No fucking way, man. They will keep trading crypto. The matter of fact is that you pay attention to those assets when crypto is fucking doing nothing. You know what I mean? And that's why a lot of the capital is moving towards what is hot at the moment. You know what I mean? So, but once crypto comes back, if it comes back, I'm not saying it will. I'm not saying it won't. I'm just don't know. Well, at this point, we'll go through the charts, and I'm like, I don't know.
mm,
So
mm,
that's basically why the attention goes into it. More news, more. Now China does like I don't know. I saw a news this morning about commodity. There is one because I'm tracking them. I trade
mhm.
it on my own sort of capital, right? And it's still good. I think copper will do have as well its own. Copper is lagging on metals, and if you think like if you go like if, I've never talked about metals or commodities
Mm,
here, but then there's more fundamental driven stuff on that in terms of the global demand. And if you think copper is lagging against gold and silver, but copper is widely being used to any electronics, solar, whatever. Copper is the basics of a lot of things, and it's underpriced in a way, right?
mm,
Especially in Australia, is a exporter of copper. There was a lot of mines here in Australia that actually got closed because copper actually dropped in price, and it will come back. It's just the commodities, the cycles of the
mm,
commodity markets.
mm,
But that could be something for you to guys look into it if you wanna save assets. It's an asset, copper, silver, gold. It will have fluctuations. Now there's more people looking at it, and now it's like
mm,
an all-time highs. I think we're going to like towards the end of the year, it's going to be very volatile, man. Like, you got people buying, people selling, people gain position, people actually getting. Still, the tax harvesting is in play. Why? Because you have until the 31st of January to do some tax harvesting. You know what I
mm.
mean? So that's why I think January is going to give it very interesting, man, for crypto. Very interesting because
Mm.
what I'm seeing at the moment is whoever sold already sold. You don't see the market sort of, you know, tanking. You know what I mean? Like, so that's why I think it's just a matter of waiting in the first week of Jan to see that people will start getting position. That's kind of my gut feel. I don't know. I'll have to. That's my thesis at least, and let's see if the price action follows that. So I'm waiting, and that's my waiting game at the moment.
Yeah, you mentioned that in your video on the 26th about that kind of going into the new year. Well, I suppose we've only got uh, a couple of days now, haven't we?
Yeah,
But I mean, what's the catalyst for when? I guess the answer could be anything, but
yeah.
it's like the crypto market seems to be in one of those stages where the biggest danger is getting bored and you stop paying attention to it. And then you come
Mm-hmm.
back and you think, fuck, I've missed everything. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
because volatility, certainly on the daily, volatility is, all-time lows on Bitcoin. Yeah, I mean, and those candles are getting smaller and compressing every day. But directionally, we don't know because staying at around this kind of 87, 86, we're not dipping into that pool of liquidity that's below it, which I think goes down to about sort of 72 or something. And then this is where it just gets into those guessing games. Is it going to be a case of it goes
Mm-hmm.
down and then it's pumped back up people buying at 70, 72? It's really difficult to call it. Like, I don't even feel like a 60-40 decision at the moment. It just feels like, well, it just seems 50-50, and I got to wait for something,
Technically,
you know?
technically, yeah, and I we'll put here. Scott put a good email today. Whenever the
Mm,
best moments to buy is when everything is really painful. Did we hit that level yet? Not entirely sure. You know what I mean? Like when. So let's go through the chart. Let's
mm,
let
mm.
me show you what I'm seeing in the screen. Just all right. You guys see my screen now?
We can, yeah. Put
All
my
right.
glasses on now, I can see.
So first of all, let's go through. Let me just make this to make this bigger a little bit. There you go. Okay. Go through the weekly first, because the weekly, just this is weekly price action, man. Like it's been all over, not all over the place. Apps. I explained this a little bit on Friday, and you can actually see, market makers. This price is basically moving by perps. I'll show you in the open interest and stuff like that. How are you gonna actually spot that? So knowing that. a game that you can play is sell the top by the bottom. That's by the lowest of the ranges and the highest of the range on the weekly, or in the last 2 weeks. So that's the ranges that we are at the moment. And we can actually see that last week, from the 15th of December, and then the last week as well, which is holidays week, we are not doing pretty much nothing, right?
Hmm.
So the interesting thing that something to be mindful is that we have the yearly that is going to the yearly candle is going to close, right, in 3 days, 2 days. Yeah, is that, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
important. Always very important how this candle closes. So obviously, it's still bullish in my view. Very, very bullish long term speaking, right? So if we start from the yearly, like if we close around 90, around 87 or 90, still very good. You know what I mean? Like this is an asset that has been year after year, right? It's been sort of gaining traction, right? From the
Mhm.
long term view. If we drop it from the weekly, right? Right? If we drop it on the weekly, remember that I was showing you this pattern a few weeks ago. Like you got this bottom, then you have this bad week, but it cleared these lows down and then up, and that's where the trend goes. I'm still thinking that that could be a possibility. So that's if we got that sort of setup, right? We could get that jump up to at least 100K, which is that will be the mean reversion trade that we were talking about, right? If we get that sort of, just sweep into a friggin' 80Ks, right? 80K bank, and then we do get. I'm pretty sure. No, I'm not pretty sure. Cancel that. No, forget about what I'm saying. I'm pretty sure. I'm. There's a high probability that we can definitely go up to the 100K, which is that 100K will be a really interesting area. Either new shorts will pile up, or trend will continue from the weekly perspective. Think about from that perspective. Why I say those things. This is the first time that we sort of broke structure from the bigger trend, the weekly trend. You can actually see the trend up, 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 broke structure here. So once we get here, that will be a very appealing trade for shorts. For people, let's fucking short this thing. And who is going to win at that stage? How is the market is going to be at that stage? Why do I say that? Because obviously we don't know. Let's imagine a hypothetical case that we get up to 100K
Mhm.
and Trump says, fuck, we're going to the moon. We approve Bitcoin as a tender in the US. I'm just making, you know what I
Mhm.
mean? That as a catalyst that will have trend continuation. Would you agree?
Mhm. I agree.
Now we get up to 100K and there's no news, no nothing. None. Do you think people will going to buy blindly? You're gonna, you know what I mean? That's the type of stuff that I will ask myself once we get there. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like what's going on is very, so price action is one thing. What's going on once we hit at a level, that will be another thing. You know what I mean? So,
Mhm.
so, so, so yeah, that's kind of what I'm waiting for. But I definitely want to catch a little bit of this mean reversion trade.
Mhm.
The problem with that at the moment is that going to start from here, or are we going to have this sweep down to the 80s, and then we're gonna get that there, like it happened here. You know what I mean? So that's the two sort of setups thesis that I have in terms of Bitcoin, right? So like if we get that, like let's say if we get a sweep down, and then I'll be buying, targeting that area right there, and then obviously once you start seeing my Bitcoin sort of moving up, then alts are going to go nuts. That's gonna start buying alts heavy. You know what I mean? That's option number one. Option number two is, let's say that we broke this level, and the next level down will be the 73,000, right? If 70,000 doesn't hold, right? So if think about it from what happened with 200 EMA range or average, once we drop this down, this EMA will start dropping as well. As market drops, EMA drops. So now that 100K becomes a little bit, not 100K, it becomes probably 96 and 95. Then, that's how you actually need to, that's the level that we need to look. I will not look for 100K any longer. I'll look for what that average is at, technically. You know what I mean? So that's kind of what I'm looking into a mean reversion long-term trade, which I think it might happen in January, but this is just, you know what I mean? But I don't, how do I put this? I'm looking for this trade to actually get into some really short-term trades, but I'm not sure what's going to happen at 100K because this could be definitely a short setup happening here. Mean reversion, short, and then it will target this level here. That could happen as well. So I have many possibilities. And the fact that we don't have a lot of liquidity coming through, it is, yeah, it's, yeah. I don't see a lot of traction at these levels here. So what that means is there's no traction here. So big traders are waiting for a different level. Which one is it going to be? I don't know. But the fact that there's no price action at 88K, either we come down here and then we have institutional buying, or right here. Now, this is the biggest pain point that I think no one is expecting, but it still could happen. And this is pre-Trump sort of position and things like that. Bitcoin at 50K. So what do you think is going to happen to alts if Bitcoin drops all the way down to 50K?
They will just be wiped out.
More than likely, right? So this could be the really bigger pain point that it could happen. But what I'm saying is, on either of these levels, I'm still bullish. I think Bitcoin will get to 110 or 115 in the future again. You know what I mean? So this is the game. Is that here? Is that here? Is that here? Who knows? I'm still bullish. You know what I mean? Obviously, very tough to do with leverage. You know what I mean? Especially longer term leverage. So I will say that longer term leverage will be safer once we cross that. Once we are sort of in a bullish trend pattern sort of deal, that's when we go heavier. Until then, it's just a waiting game, and consistency is basically tracking the markets every day to see what's going on. And that's basically what we've been doing. So that's kind of in a nutshell my mumbling around Bitcoin. And what I mean, something that I want to show you is, why do I say this is a perp driven market? Let's have a look at the.
Well, you're calling up the perps, Maurizio. Hopefully, this should align with what you're showing here.
Yep.
How can we, or should we, or shouldn't we, use a framework that Scott often talks about with things like he's looking for people that are forced to sell, like, price constraints, inefficiencies, which I realize is more quant stuff. But if we're looking at that BTC chart before, and you looked at those areas that you've marked out, well, what's the action around those areas? Is there already a bunch of sellers that are lined up at 100K? So does 100K become that kind of number that everybody sells because it's a nice round number? How can we put the puzzle together? I guess it's more from this open interest of who's trapped, or is that straying too far into the quant world and too far away from the purpose of this, the discretionary trading?
We kind of do that in a way with this, and it's a framework. So something that I've been sort of going through on a weekly basis with you guys is, the mechanisms of, price sustainability in terms of who's buying. It's they're buyers at the CVD, or what CVD cumulative delta, what that mean, what that sort of tries to tell you, not exact, is how many buyers are in the spot market at the moment. And the spot is basically spot. When you buy a spot, is basically harder to sell than when you open a pair position. Pair position, you can scalp things like that. But because spot, you can only buy. You can't actually go short. You can only buy or sell. You buy your asset or you dispose your asset, period. Right? Mm-hmm. So that's kind of what we've been doing every time that we get into a level. Think about it from the perspective, who's driving is, if we get to this level here, the 80 something, and you see a bunch of liquidations, which is basically pairs being liquidated, right? But then you start seeing a lot of volume coming through, then that is a possibility that could be an interesting, at least a local bottom. Why? Because there are people willing to buy at that level. You know what I mean? Like here, like if I'm that's why I say 88K. There's no buyers at all. It looks like interesting here, but then all of a sudden at the beginning of the day now, bang.
Does that mean that Bitcoin is fairly priced?
Oh. Now you open a can of worms. All right, let's ask this to everybody. What do you guys think about is Bitcoin fairly priced? Is that a fair price for Bitcoin?
This is going to be interesting.
Crickets, man. I think
it is.
Just throw anything at it. Yeah. All right, that becomes subjective. Think about it from the perspective. That's why I don't like is fair price. What is fair price? I always trying to think, okay, let me understand that concept. What that means for me. So if I go, and I'm going to give you my definition, it could be different for you and it could be different for anyone here listening, right? So for me, fair price means something like, something that, if you have an asset, a fair price is a price that the market has accepted as a value. You know what I mean? And then therefore, if I know that value is a price, anything around that price is fair price. But the first definition is, what is fair price in the beginning of, you know what I mean? Let's do that analogy with homes. All right, let's say you're gonna buy a home, okay, and then let's say you're selling. No, you're gonna buy in a good neighborhood, and you know what a fair price looks like. And then you go and somebody's selling above the average and somebody said below the average, right? Why? Maybe the one below the average needs to sell because they need the money. They need to, take operation, surgery, whatever. They need the money urgently. Therefore, they're forced to sell. So they basically sell below the average, below the fair price, right? But that fair price, in my view, and it could be completely wrong on this, but that's my definition. That fair price is just whatever is seen as a good price. As simple as that. So fair price is a difficult one to gauge. Why? Because that's something that you sort of track with spot in a way and with levels, because obviously, if people for the past, let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks, what I can actually tell you is that people has accepted that Bitcoin at 80K could be a bargain. Why? Because it hasn't dropped. You know what I mean? Like same thing that happened here for the past 2 weeks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks, right? The price sort of remains around the same range between 90, 88, and 76. So people has this perception that this could be a really good price right now because whatever happened here, Trump or whatever conditions happen here, Bitcoin was going to go to $1 million. Therefore, in your mind, right now, when you go into highs, right, 120K, will people buy 100K? Apparently, no one did, right? They never thought that this thing was going to get 150, right? So obviously the value of your fair price start dropping. So that's when it says fair price, in my view, is subjective. You know what I mean? And changes is a dynamic change, like anything, cars, houses, like it becomes on demand, but then you do have sort of historical prices where you are. Let me ask you this. What do you guys think is a fair price for Bitcoin right now? And throw whatever number comes to your mind, because I'm pretty sure that everybody will have a different one.
Darren says that he saw Bitcoin at $8,000 and didn't buy at the time. So I'll go with $8,000 is the fair price.
See, so we have 80, 76, 100K, 88. How about if I tell you, for me, fair price for Bitcoin is 50K?
50K. Because fair
Why?
price is your opinion.
Exactly. There we go.
Yay.
However, there's more quantitative ways to measure it, and it's basically, you measure averages, statistics, and things like that to measure your fair value price, rolling averages, moving averages, volume averages, things like that you can actually sort of quantify that. So that's my definition. You know what I mean? So anything that goes above your fair price detection system, whatever it is, subjective or quantitative, then is outside the fair price. So either you buy or sell according to that.
Mm-hmm. All right.
That's my view. That's my definition.
So if we get
So
a bunch of people that think
yeah,
that 50,000 is the fair price, then at that 50,000 level, there's going to be a shit ton of longs getting ready. And if we get to
exactly.
50,000, then there would just be that massive buy from all those orders that are in place.
Well, you just implying that could happen
Mm,
now. All right, now, and this is when things could get really really tricky, because that's when the price reaches to a certain level, you go and see who's buying. That you don't buy blindly. You start seeing, okay, spot is sort of liking that level. Herbs are following through. Who is long, who's short, things like that, right? Because if you have a massive drop to 50K and no one is buying, maybe Bitcoin got hacked, and that's it. It's all over. That doesn't mean because we reach a 50K, right? What are the implications? What happened with Bitcoin that drove the price all the way down to 50K? And if it's nothing, and it's just a random, candle that happened with no real fundamental behind it, then I will expect that movement, price buy, and maybe it's just a bunch of people getting liquidated, and that's what shorts are driving towards then. And like you have to build your thesis from those points, but don't go and buy blindly, because this could have continuation towards fucking 20K. I'm just making it up. I'm not saying that it will, but that could happen, right? And a lot of people thought that 100K was a fair price value. What happened? Now we're at 88K. You know what I mean? Like and with Bitcoin being such a new asset, right? Very tough to know what the fair, like the real fair value. Let's talk about commodities. Commodities is a different
mm,
story in a way, because let's say you invest on silver, gold, they're mines. There's people that you pay. All these mines have to pay people. They have a cost base in terms of actually extract that commodity out of the earth, right? So the only cost right now for Bitcoin is technically the miners, right, and electricity in a way, right? So that's kind of the equivalent, but then Bitcoin and crypto is all hype, man, in terms of what people have expectations in the future. Is Bitcoin going to be $1 million? Therefore, 100K is cheap. Is Bitcoin going to be to 100K. So I think 100K is not that a good deal anymore. Things like that, it's more subjective in my opinion.
Hmm. That is very interesting, Maurizio.
So Madden says it means ETS force the price. They show their clients big profits when it gets back up. Plus, they want everyone to enter the market through them, and that's why they're going MicroStrategy and the Treasury. Yeah, that's a big factor. But there's a lot of, that's the treasury companies and stuff like that. And a lot of these companies, they think it's easy, but then when you like MicroStrategy is really well supported. Like the guy has done a lot of diligence. The stock is really well balanced in terms of long ranges and stuff like that. But then a lot of people trying to attack that. So that could be an interesting. That's how markets behave. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, so you just have to sort of be mindful and not fully be bullish and fully be bearish and fully. I don't know. I'm just going through what I think could happen, and if I see, like, those are my thesis, 80K, 74, and if I see volume coming through, volume on those levels, that means that my thesis could be correct, and that could be an interesting thesis. So that's basically what I'm playing. When it happens. What about if it doesn't happen? So if it doesn't happen, I don't have anything to say. I have no idea. You know what I mean? Like, but then, yeah. And something important that I say last week is, like, trading on holidays is pretty tough, very easy to move markets. So check this out on what happened. You get a lot of spot buying here, and the spot is actually clearing out those shorts. Clear out the shorts, traps longs in, and then bang, drops, liquidations to the downside. This is the kind of behavior that I think we're going to see until the new year comes. You know what I mean? So I'd rather not to be trading, to be honest. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
Jim, I think any asset, in a way, you could be exposed to gambling house, but then obviously, crypto is definitely 10 times worse than that. That's why the gains are huge and the losses are huge. So Darren, yeah, it can explode. It could, but I don't want to sort of put I always like, and I keep saying to this is something that I learned a lot on the 2025 guys. And it's like, every time that you think it could explode, it might not. You know what I mean? So obviously, if
Well, a
you
week or
think,
so ago, people were asking if there was going to be a Santa rally, and now we've been and gone.
and this is about any sort of stuff that you see, the Santa rally for year cycle, even the DATs, a lot of ETFs attacking DATs, or there's a lot of conspiracy theories around, like a lot of big players shorting so they can break all the DATs, all the treasury companies, even MicroStrategy, things like that. Which one you believe? Don't know. Like, the only one that I can think of is if that's supported by price of what I'm seeing here. If it does, great. If it doesn't, that's great as well. But don't, because once you start saying, yeah, New Year's is going to explode, it's going to explode, the only thing that you're going to see is explosion to the upside, and then you can get trapped on here. Imagine this. It's New Year's Day. You watch the markets. You think crypto is going to explode, and then you see this candle coming through. What would you going to do?
I'd sell the wife and just keep
Me
buying.
too. I know, because I'm so biased, right? I'm so biased, right? And I say, fuck that, that's it.
I'd consider selling the dog as well,
And me too, man. Like, everything, right? And then, fuck, shit, fuck. And
I'd
then
be begging the wife for
yeah.
forgiveness at this point. Please come back, love.
So things like that, right? Especially with crypto, that's so volatile, man. sometimes you think it's going to the moon, and
Mm.
then it drops, and sometimes you think it's gonna crash, and you short the market because you're smarter than you think you are. Everything that I'm saying, I've learned it by experience, right? And this is the best thing that I can tell you is do not get married with your thesis. Okay,
Mm. Mm.
have it in the back end, have different plans of actions if this then that, but then obviously this is the best sort of
Mm.
indication that I found to track who's driving the market. So you can actually see now that there's no spot buying, and then open interest start increasing. So that's a perp driven market. And with perp driven market, right, usually you find a lot of volatility up, down, because they're trying to hunt stop losses. They're trying to hunt. This is market makers making money. This is what market making is all about, right? Driving the market. But when you do have a lot of volume, a lot of CVD coming through, it's very hard for market makers to actually do this type of track. That's it. Uh,
Mm.
so 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 yeah.
Okay. All right. Here's
That's
one then. So
yeah,
let's say that we put our thesis together, right? And
yeah,
our thesis largely consists of hands off the wheel for the moment. We want to see some kind of directional movement. Okay. All right.
yeah.
Fair enough. And we also think that if Bitcoin goes up, the alts are going to follow. Okay, great. How in the fuck do you identify the alts to take trades on when there's 10 fucking billion of them? Like,
All right.
how can you, like, I've got a watch list that's as long as my leg, and I look
Yeah,
at
I
it and I
know.
think, damn, man, I can't scour through fucking 200 coins. Now, I know
No,
that you don't
it's
get any sleep, but as part of this discretionary trading, because like last week you were looking at, I think, Mon,
yeah.
and
I'm
I
still
looked
looking
at
at
that
it.
and I thought, how the fuck can you tell anything by this chart? There's only about three candles.
All right. Let me. I go by FUD and excitement on Twitter, or you know what I mean, like, or things that have happened. So stuff that I have in my watch list at the moment, right? Let's say we went into virtual. All right. We're still on this trade, by the way. We haven't been stopped out or anything like that. I wanted to, and I started. I'm gonna add more on this one if it plays out. So a lot of these ones here, they do have a narrative behind it. Okay, it's
Mhm.
not because. So let me explain. Hype, you guys all know the fucking narrative, right? So I think hype it could be a pretty good trade. So that would be the first one that I would be sort of going in if we still hold a bunch of hype. I want to add more, but I want to add more at when things I want to sort of start turning, right? What's the narrative behind hype?
That
We
it's
all
going to
know
be
the
the
bear.
number one
Correct.
DeFi,
Correct. All right. Now we're going to Asta. What's the narrative behind Asta?
that it wants to be the number one DeFi, thus beating Hyperliquid.
And obviously, a bunch of people saw that. We actually made money last year on that trade. So I think that that could come back. With
Mm.
crypto, there's always, and besides that, Asta has this guy, the CC, the guy from BNB behind it, right? So at some point, he's gonna fucking push it up. How far? Who knows? I don't know, right? But it's in my
Mm.
watch list because of that reason. Pump fund, okay? That's the trade that I was thinking. I didn't take this trade, but I'm still thinking about this one, right? I'm glad I didn't take it, otherwise it would have been stopped out, right? But
Mm.
Pump is being very, very volatile. Pump, they do have an ecosystem. You could see as you could see in there are Dune dashboards that show you how many people are creating new pump fund tokens, the volume going through, the fees generated by these. So these are real protocols making money. Okay.
Mm.
Pump virtual, right? Virtual. Why is virtual? This pump here on virtual was actually they did an partnership with Coinbase in terms of they are creating agents for trading and things like that. Nothing has happened yet, but the narrative's there. So that's the base points. TRX is always been strongest. Like this thing is being strong, so I'm following, right? Link, there is I did talk about this a while back, and it's a combination of a lot of they do have it in the Trump portfolio. They matches a lot of the narratives, so that's why it's there. Sui is one of the biggest ecosystems that are growing. It's fast. It's a good layer one. It had a good appreciation over time, and there's a lot of people backing up, so that's part of it. VIP is the liquidity of Sui, so this will move together, right? So if Sui comes back up, expect VIP to go ballistic. Arrow, right, is basically the gateway for base, right? So Arrow is, if you want to trade on base, Arrow is the gateway. They earn fees, they do that, so their real business coming through. So I will expect this one to go really good. Ina, I think you guys all know what Ina does, right? We're still on some spot on this one, right? YB, I did talk about this one. By the way, these are just planned trades that I've been thinking. So YB is yield based. You can actually, this is an interesting protocol. It's brand new. It's brand new on TradingView, but if you go and have a look at yield based in Dex Screener before the launch and things like that, you can actually see the trend coming back up, right? So that's kind of what I'm following this one. And yield based, it does have an interesting protocol in terms of that you can actually earn yield by staking Bitcoin and Ethereum and things like that, right? SEC goes into my narrative of that was an interesting bounce that I missed from the weekly perspective. Anyway, SEC very strong. I think this is the leading one of privacy coins. Mantle is the sort of native token for Bybit, right? So now you can actually buy Mantle and you get discounts and things like that. So this could turn into a BNB in the future, right? HeyTH is a horrible fucking chart. I'm just having it there because of the fundamentals, right? So so each one of these ones have something. Let's talk about Mon. Okay, so Mon, which I'm tempted to open a position before New Year's, and Mon is being pushed so hard, right, prior launch, right, that I think at some point it was going to come back. And Monad is a very interesting infrastructure play in terms of crypto. So that's the reason why. So there's a lot of different things that I have here, and they follow into a fundamental aspect of it besides charts. So I hope that makes a little bit of sense.
Yeah, that was absolutely awesome.
Because
So
if you watch my watch list, man, look, fuck, man, I have so many watch lists, but then I start sort of filtering, going into a little bit more narrative. If this has a narrative, if it doesn't have a narrative, because we're trying to catch that long term, at least from the daily perspective, we're trying to catch at least a 50, 100% trade. That's what we. Otherwise, you can trade every single one of these ones and then just do scalps and things like that. So yeah, I hope that makes sense in terms of the stuff I put here. I do talk a little bit about Bone, but that could be Filecoin. Why Filecoin is here? Fucking Filecoin. I love it and I hate it. I think Filecoin always every time, like if you go in the spaghetti charts, this is an interesting one that I've seen with Filecoin, that every time that is a little bit of risk on, is like Filecoin just goes dramatically huge. So could be like my gauge on if risks on, like if Filecoin starts going nuts, I think there are people willing to go risk on alts. So that I see it as a meta, same thing as hype, but I kind of like this, because Filecoin is being that sort of gauge. So a lot of people still like Filecoin, man. Can this go back up to one? I have no idea, man. But at least I'm seeing as a gauge, because every time, like, put it on your spaghetti charts, and you will see that behavior. That every time that Bitcoin goes a little bit up, Filecoin just moves dramatically. So if Filecoin starts breaking, I think that could be a good barometer to to see where people are in risk. You know what I mean? So things like that. That's why I use that's yeah.
Well, amazing. Happy New Year, Maurizio. I guess I'll
Well,
be seeing
guys,
you on
I'll
my
see you on
Thursday
Wednesday.
morning.
Yep.
Your
I
Thursday
am my
morning. Oh,
Wednesday.
yeah. Oh, yeah, it's a day
What?
early, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's a
yeah, it's a
day
day
early.
early this
Yeah,
week for the
the
YF10.
YF10, yeah.
Guys, if I don't see you, Happy New Year. It's been a pleasure. Uh, Hopefully by next year we'll make up for everything that happened this year. But then, just be aware of markets, the way they move and things like that. I think you'll learn a lot, but and by being in here, and we hope that we can translate it into money next year, guys. So happy new year to all and all the best.
Nice. Nice. Take care, everyone. Ta-da.
Bye bye.